All right, welcome in everyone. Is it too early to start talking about severe thunderstorms? Well, maybe, maybe not. So we're going to talk about that tonight. It is, of course, January 28th. Not in severe weather season yet. However, we are closer than you may realize. March the 1st is the unofficial, I guess you could say, start of severe weather season. Obviously, a little bit more than a month away from that. However, we do have, I would say, a rather slight chance of seeing some severe weather somewhere in North Texas tomorrow, late tomorrow, overnight hours into Thursday. Go over all the details in just a second. But I wanted to start with this map to give you an idea. Not much going on right now across the country. So hopefully you can get an idea that one, there's no weather except if you're up in the Northeast, you can see some snow up there. Our New York friends are getting lake effect snow there. Everywhere else, pretty calm. We have temperatures in the mid 50s right now for us. No big cold snaps on the horizon, at least the next 5 to 10 days. So don't have to worry about that. However, because temperatures are a little warmer than normal for January, we do have an atmospheric setup that we could see some strong thunderstorms, maybe even a couple severe thunderstorms. Again, late tomorrow into the overnight into Thursday. And let's just get right into it. So the Storm Prediction Center, this is their latest outlook, and as you can tell, this is a level one in of severe level one, marginal, I should say, if I can talk, marginal risk of severe thunderstorms in the dark green. And yes, Dallas Fort Worth is included. Now, what kind of threats are there really for North Texas? Going to go into those details in just a second. But this is for tomorrow. I don't think we have to worry about much during the early part of the day, but later on, especially into the evening hours and overnight hours, especially, is when we could see some strong storms. It doesn't mean we're going to see strong storms, or certainly not even see severe storms, but there is a chance. We do have a setup that's kind of leaning that way. Now, as far as particulars, the tornado outlook, the tornado threat, as you can see, is not in North Texas. 2% chance. In matter of fact, yeah, it's a little hidden there by the screen, but 2% chance of a tornado really in the hill country northwest of Austin and San Antonio. Right now, that's the way it's looking. Not anywhere near North Texas, but if you have friends or family down there, just might want to give them a little heads up tomorrow that they could see some rougher weather. And as far as the hail outlook, again, severe hail, again, 2% chance of seeing hail. Now, of course, that does include Dallas Fort Worth and most of North Texas, and that kind of matches up with, or it does match up with the marginal risk area, that dark green area we showed first. And as you can tell, it's really for a hail threat. And then last but certainly not least, the severe wind gust outlook. And again, same thing. It is part of Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex is included, but most of that is southwest of Dallas Fort Worth. So you can kind of get an idea based on these severe weather hazard types that that's where we're going to see most of at least if there is a chance, we're going to see most of the severe weather south and southwest of Dallas Fort Worth. But we are in the marginal risk, so that means we couldn't see something. All right, so let's take a look at some model data here. And if I can get my screen to go here, that's not what I want. That's what I want. Okay. So this is our friend, infamous, famous, however you want to say it, HRRR model for about 10 o'clock tomorrow evening. So again, I think the biggest threat we would see from this system we're going to have move through is a line of storms. I don't get the sense that we're going to be talking about, you know, the classic springtime setup, individual supercells and tornadoes and all that. Although I will say this, and this is something that we'll definitely watch tomorrow evening, is that even though we're not expecting a quote unquote outbreak of tornadoes, we're not expecting that at all. If we were, you'd see a much higher risk level. However, this atmospheric setup is an interesting one because what we're seeing is, because like I've always said, there's several different layers of elements that have to come together to get severe weather in North Texas. Wind shear, instability, moisture, temperature, of course. And so all those have to come into play basically at the same time. Like I've always said, it's the analogy of baking a cake. It's you got to have you can have all the ingredients to bake a cake, but if you don't bake it at the right temperature, for example, then you're not gonna have a good cake. Or if you forget one ingredient, of a cake, i.e., the sugar, then you can do everything else right, but your cake is not going to taste very good. So it's the same thing with severe weather, and same thing with snowfall setup as we saw a couple weeks ago. So you had to have all those elements come together and at the right time. So what we are going to have a lot of in the atmosphere is shear. That's where the winds diverge, and there's two different kinds. Well, there's two main kinds of shear: speed shear, and that's where the wind speeds at the different altitudes of the atmosphere are going. One's going faster, like the one above it's going faster than the one below it, speed wise. And then you have directional shear, and that's basically like you have at this level of the atmosphere, the wind's going southwest, and then at the surface, it's going south. So you have the shearing of the winds from a directional standpoint, and that's where you see a lot of tornadoes in the right setup. So also, there's a lot that goes into it, but also what you need is if you have shear, you also want instability. Those are the kind of the two main ingredients. Other things got to happen, but just for simplicity's sake, that's what's got to happen. So tomorrow we will have more than enough shear in the atmosphere to produce severe weather. What we probably won't have a lot of, according to the models, is a lot of instability. And so there's a couple reasons for that. One, just the time of year, the temperature doesn't, typically in January, it doesn't get that high, although, of course, we can see it to the extreme. Case in point, the December 2015 tornado. Obviously, it can happen any time of the year, but we're not expecting temperatures in the 70s or 80s tomorrow, like we did that day after Christmas in 2015. So that's one of the main reasons we won't see, probably most likely, probably won't see a lot of severe weather, but we'll have a lot of shear. And so what you will probably see on radar depictions tomorrow is a lot of rotating storms. Now, the updrafts. So that sounds kind of scary, right? Well, it's not terribly scary in the sense that number one, we won't have a lot, at least if the models are right, we won't have a lot of instability to work with. But they might look kind of impressive on radar that, oh gosh, the storm is rotating, but it doesn't mean it's rotating at the ground. So but it's just, kind of give you a heads up. And obviously if it gets kind of crazier than I think, I'll be on top of it tomorrow. But if you're looking at home and you're looking at the radar and it looks like the storms are, oh my gosh, the storms are rotating or spinning. Well, most likely they probably are, but not the surface. Let's cross our fingers. So this is HRRR. And so if you go forward, a couple of frames, let me do this. Well, okay, let's do this. That went back too far. There we go. Okay. So again, west of us should start seeing some storms forming, and then it'll congeal into a line according to the HRRR. And then it'll move on through and we're basically done. Now that's one. That's what we call a convective. I was gonna say that was the HRRR. Yeah, okay. I almost thought I was showing you the wrong model. So that's HRRR. That's a convective allowing model, as we call it. And so that is one model's attempt at, hey, this is what it's going to be like tomorrow. Now, this is the NAM, North American model, the high resolution NAM. There's a broader NAM that goes out further, but this is a short-term version of it, basically. And so I'll just go ahead and put this in motion or fast forward it. So again, this is toward the evening hours. And this one, let me go back one. Let's see. Yeah. Well, boy, since oh my God. Okay. We'll do it this way. Okay. So as you can see right here, these individual cells. So the NAM is a little more aggressive, calling for some cells to pop out ahead of the line. Not saying that's going to happen, but if it did happen, we will have a setup to where, it could drop a little hail. If you remember from the previous maps, the hail threat is here. It's 2%. It's not a very large threat, but it's still a threat. So that's probably accounts for something like that. Now, again, the HRRR model just doesn't show those individual cells out ahead of the line. It just shows the line. And if it's a line, the hail won't be hardly anything, if anything at all. And then it'll be just kind of a quote unquote wind threat. And so that's what we're looking at most likely. So those are the two models I trust the most when it comes to convection allowing. But just for grins, we can go to the HRW and let's see. Let me. No, that's right. I don't know if it goes this far out, to be honest. Uh, no, that one doesn't get that far out. That's a really short term. Oh, well, yeah, it does, but it's just that we'll go back and run. There we go. I was gonna say that's really short. And again, you can kind of see scattered showers in the early part of the day. And then again, you can kind of see this general idea, this line that's moving through. I think all the models that I looked at pretty much show that. So I think it's something that if you kind of want to summarize tomorrow, cloudy, start raining, maybe not quite all day. And then as the afternoon goes on, it's starting into the evening hours, showers and thunderstorm activity pick up. And again, um, things could have some strong storms. And as the map showed before, is mainly the bigger threats mainly in south, west Texas hill country. All right, so let's kind of dive into some particulars as far as timing for us. So we are going to see, like I said, we're going to see showers and thunderstorms increase tomorrow night into Thursday. I haven't really talked about the heavy rain part of it, but as far as the hazards for this, that the heavy rain is the way bigger story than any severe weather, to be quite honest. And so you can see this from this map right here. You could have 3+ inches of rain east and northeast of Dallas Fort Worth, 2 to 3 inches in the Metroplex, and as the further west you go, 1 to 2 inches. But again, this is kind of a graphical from the Fort Worth office. This is the graphical representation of the severe weather chance in the yellow here, strong, severe. In the green, you probably wouldn't have much of a chance to see a severe storm. And then, of course, into Thursday, it all moves off to the east. So that's kind of a good representation of what we're seeing from the models. I think that's why they show that graphic. Now, as far as tomorrow during the day, again, just isolated storms, showers really more than anything. Probably start late morning into the early afternoon hours. And then as you go into the afternoon hours, into the evening hours, is when our thunderstorm chances really start to pick up a little bit. So most of the day tomorrow should be fine. Not saying it's not going to be wet where you're at, but it's from an activity standpoint, not going to be a whole lot to talk about until the evening hours, most likely. And then just to kind of give you an idea of Thursday when all this moves off, if you have friends and family in Southeast Texas and Louisiana, as you can tell, they have a slight risk tomorrow, the level 2. So that's their thinking is that the system will get a little bit stronger, have a little bit more dynamics to work with as it moves east. So right now we're in a marginal risk. If I go back to that one, especially if you just joined us. So again, we're a marginal risk tomorrow. That's level 2, 1 out of 5, the lowest severe weather level. And in case you missed it, I did post a graphic yesterday of the risk levels from the Storm Prediction Center 1 through 5. Well, I even including the general thunderstorm outlook risk, which is, I guess you could say, 0. But and I think it's still out there somewhere. If not, I'll get it to you if you need it. But it's something that it's a good reminder because as we obviously go into February and into March, we will see our severe weather chances increase. And as a matter of fact, I think I can pull that up real quick. I bet I can. All right, let's try this. Yeah, there we go. All right. Getting the hang of this. And I know we don't have a whole lot of people watching, but those who are, thank you. If you have a comment, just put it in the chat. So again, just to kind of give everybody a reminder, these are the Storm Prediction Center's severe thunderstorm outlook categories. And again, there's not a level 0, but you kind of want to call that for general thunderstorm. They're not expecting severe weather. Although not saying it couldn't happen, but would be very, very isolated. So tomorrow we are in level 1, so marginal. As they say, some storms could be capable of damaging winds and severe hail. Localized tornado threat could develop. And then in summary, isolated severe storms are possible. Like we saw on the other map for Louisiana, slight risk, isolated to scattered severe storms expected. If we get an enhanced risk, scattered to numerous severe thunderstorms are expected. Moderate risks, scattered to numerous severe storms are expected. It just is more, they have a higher confidence of that. And then the rare high risk, which probably happens sometimes every 3, 4, 5 years. Numerous severe thunderstorms would be expected. Tornadoes, some strong. All that good stuff. We don't see that very often. But again, that's just a kind of quick recap of the severe thunderstorm outlook categories that the Storm Prediction Center puts out. All right. So with that, I don't see anything in the chat, but as always, if you watch this video after the fact, you can certainly put a comment in there and I'll address it. Let's see what one more thing here. We can go back to the big picture. So there you go. As I started with, not a whole lot going on in the country, but that will change starting tomorrow. And so, just for fun, I'd always like to kind of see what is going on in different parts of the country. So, yeah, I love these temperature anomalies because here you can see the temperatures, well, zero up in the mountains of Colorado. And one of my favorite places, Jackson, Wyoming, is at 3 degrees. So it's a chilly, still winter. Yellowstone, 10 degrees, still winter up that part of the world. So it's kind of fun to look at that sometimes. But again, if you look at the country as a whole, there's no really bitterly cold temperatures like we were seeing. Last week we were seeing temperatures up in North Dakota -20, so it's definitely warmed up. And then, of course, again, some lake effect snow in New York, which is pretty typical for this time of year. And our snow down south along the beaches of Pensacola and Orange Beach and Destin, all gone, all but a memory. But that's kind of fun. And it's kind of a bummer we missed out on that, although we had some snow before that. But a very rare event. I don't think we may not see those of us in the Generation X category. We may not see snow down there the rest of our life. You never know. So it's kind of a cool thing. All right. So I don't see anything in the chat. So I'm going to sign off. I'll post this video. I'll keep the live version up and I'll post a video version on my YouTube page. So if you don't want to watch the live version, I'll edit it down just a little bit. And then you can rewatch it at your heart content. And then if you have comments, you can post them then. All right. I don't see any comments. So I am going to sign off. As always, I am watching the weather so you don't have to. Hope everyone has a great. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I was going to show one more quick thing. The outlook for the rest of the week after the storm system moves through. I knew I was forgetting something. And so, as you can tell, it's going to be the weekend. Look at that, 69 for Dallas Fort Worth, 64 up in Sherman, 71 down in Waco, 66 in Palestine if you're down that way. So, once we get past this little stormy period, which won't last very long, make a lot of heavy rain out of it initially, but then it's going to clear out Friday, Saturdays, and even though Sunday's not on this graphic, it's going to be a great weekend. So, looking forward to that, especially for January. Or yeah, I guess that's still no, that'd be February. So Saturday is February 1st. So not a bad way to end January and to start February, that's for sure. But I will say this: as far as February goes, typically is when we see our most extreme winter weather. Whether cold snaps. I know we've already seen snow, but really cold temperatures. That's we're not out of the woods from a winter standpoint until we get into March for the most part. So, okay, now with that, I'm watching the weather so you don't have to. Hope everyone has a great evening. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your support, and we will talk to you soon.